Brothers, in today's video, I'm going to be examining very briefly the dynamic between Christian nationalism and a Christian theocracy. I am a Christian nationalist. I am not somebody that believes that America should be the United States of the church. I do not believe that the United States should become a Vatican and basically all decisions are made by electing an American Pope. I don't agree with that. I don't support that. I think that's wrong. However, I think that the church should be emphasized more in our current society. And by the way, let me just mention, I think that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You look at America, everyone wants to come here. Even with all of our faults and failures, everyone wants to come here. I don't want to go to Saudi Arabia. I don't want to go to Israel. I don't want to go live in China. The United States is a country that was founded on Christian values and ethics. The founding fathers, one of the preeminent documents that they used in crafting the Constitution was the Bible. I want to live in a Christian nation where people are brought up and made to believe the tenets of the Christian faith, which have as their highest point of power Jesus Christ, rather than making the self the most important, which is what the modern day left does. The modern day left puts the self above all else. I should be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want. My neighbors, my community, my church, my family, all be damned. I don't even think about them. I don't consider them. It is the most selfish, destructive, and unsustainable lifestyle imaginable. If you have this on a very, very infinitesimally small scale, fine. But if that sort of selfishness reaches a wide enough group of people, then unfortunately, civilization unravels, and we're seeing that right now. What can save this, and what has historically saved civilization, is a Christian ethic, which is far superior to the hereditary atheist ethic that we see coming out of a lot of these institutions and coming out of a lot of these people that are getting into politics. So that's my take on Christian nationalism versus a theocracy. I think that having Christian principles and values and ethics is the way to go. I would not want to live in a nation that has as their preeminent religion something other than Christianity. I think that Christianity provides the most good for the world. You don't see an Islamic version of the Salvation Army with their stores providing cheap goods to the poor. And this is something that is so overlooked, and I don't see anyone talking about it. Goodwill, Salvation Army. There is a store of the Goodwill of the Salvation Army in most towns, in most cities. And the reason why that's important is because the Salvation Army provides, I think, pretty good quality stuff for dirt cheap that anyone can afford it, including if you ever needed clothes, you can go to the Salvation Army and they will provide you a big box of clothes for $5. I'm not saying that everything is going to be designer, but I'm talking about if you have no money, do you really think that these atheist people that are capitalist in nature, that the Walmarts and the Amazons, do you think they're going to give a shit about you? No. You go to the Salvation Army if you want stuff for cheap. And by the way, it's good quality stuff. You can find amazing stuff at the thrift store. And not enough people talk about that. That is one element of the good that comes from Christianity, where you have people that volunteer their time to go and clean up items and put them out there so that people can buy them for pennies of what they're actually worth. Let's be honest. You go to the Salvation Army, everything is marked down so that the poor can afford it. That is not something that you see just randomly in other nations. On top of that, every church that you go to, like let's say you're the poorest of poor, right? You go to church, and a lot of churches have a benevolence fund. So if you are somebody that is, you are in a serious situation. By the way, they're not just going to give you free money, but the church will listen to what your situation is, and they will either try to help you with manpower, like, oh, I know a guy who's part of the church, they'll help you. Or if you're somebody that's like starving, they'll feed you. If you don't have clothes, they'll clothe you. And so my point here is what Christianity provides is a community, and a community that is done good, but is unsung. What Asmongold and people like him tend to talk about is they tend to focus on their own subjective inconveniences when they were growing up. So they may have heard somebody say, well, you know what? I think that Pokemon is of the devil. I think that Dungeons and Dragons is of the devil, which, by the way, hasn't changed. The only thing that's different is now these people that are saying it don't have a Christian ethic, because in many cases they never had a Christian ethic. But what they're doing now is they're saying, well, I'm now God. I'm now the most important. These woke, fat Karens are worse than they've ever been. They are worse than they've ever been. I dream of going back to the time of the so-called Great Satanic Panic. Man, what a dream it would be, where all the media and entertainment that was coming out was just better. Where you could have fun with people. Like, Asmongold wants to portray it as this negative thing, but the truth is, he doesn't even fucking believe that. He doesn't believe the own crap that's coming out of his mouth. Because during that time was when you had some of the best entertainment that was coming out. You had all of these different amazing entertainment apparatuses that were coming out, and you would have these Christian themes in movies which just elevated them, like, for example, like Home Alone. A lot of people don't remember in Home Alone, there's a scene where Kevin goes into the church. I watched it recently with my family, where he goes into the church, and the guy that he's afraid of, the guy that they think is like the serial killer, comes and sits down next to him, and they have a talk, and he realizes that this is actually a good guy, and in the end, their conversation in the church is ultimately what saves him in the end, because the guy comes in with a shovel and clocks the sticky bandits. My point is, I look back at that old stuff, and there is definitely a Christian undertone, a Christian ethic that is gone from modern media, and we are worse for it. So you can bitch and moan about the Great Satanic Panic. By the way, there was no mass book burnings of Harry Potter. There was no mass Pokemon bannings. People would just say, yeah, maybe this isn't the right thing to do, but that wasn't even a lot of people, because Pokemon and all this stuff was incredibly popular. Doing away with the Christian ethic is one of the worst things that we could have possibly done. And the fact that it's returning actually does warm my heart. Now, there will inevitably be annoying people, but there are annoying people now. And they're worse than they've ever been. I would take a Karen who has a Christian ethic over a Karen who's a secular, self-absorbed leftist. I don't want either of them, but I'll take the Karen of the past versus the Karen of today. Anyway, I have a couple clips to show you real quick to really reinforce this and elucidate this, and then we'll sign off, and I'll wish you guys a Vida Zen.
Oh, God, no, no, no. Here we... See, this is the kind of bullshit that I had to grow up with. Stupid bitches like this used to spend all of their time taking away my Pokemon cards because they thought it was pocket monsters. This is what I grew up with.
No one took away anything that you had. Pokemon was popular. You had women that would complain, but ultimately they didn't have the ability to take it away. Now, because we've gone down, Asmongold's, Reddit tier atheist, progressive, pro Bernie Sanders approach, where the left has lost their fucking mind, now you actually have women with the ability to take things away. Now you actually have women with the ability to get people canceled. Whereas before it was a theoretical, now it is actually in praxis. And what we see from that is the media is worse. The people are worse. Society is worse. Everything is worse. I dream of going back to the days where we were just worrying about Pokemon cards. And we were worrying about Harry Potter. Sounds great, doesn't it? Now you've got fat Karens working at game companies to ruin all of the media that you love. All of the different things that you love are being ruined by fat, atheistic, disgusting, retarded, progressive Karens that love Bernie Sanders and AOC and support illegal immigration.
You want to talk about trigger warning? Seeing this video is a fucking trigger for me. I'm so fucking annoyed. We had to live under the tyranny of these retarded, brain-dead Christian Karens for 20 fucking years.
Man, it was great. I mean, yeah, some of these women were obnoxious and over the top and annoying, but things were better. Things were so much better. The prices of things were lower. The value in things were higher. You have more value. Remember the dollar menu? This is the time that he's scoffing about. The dollar menu. You could go to Taco Bell and you could get an item for 79 cents, 89 cents, 99 cents. And he's complaining about it because a bunch of Karens. He didn't realize how good he had it. Well, anyway, Asmongold also had a different perspective on this same topic. And I wanted to play this real quick. I won't take too much more of your time, but I just really wanted to hammer this home.
Objectively, how would the world that you live in really be worse?
I could easily come up with tons of reasons why having a religious theocracy or anything that's governed by a religious ideal could be problematic. I mean, the fact is, Andrew knows this. Andrew's older than I am, right? Is that, like, the truth, I mean, this is a long video. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll kind of address kind of what he's saying is that, like, I grew up in the era of, like, the Bush administration, you had the Iraq war, and you had the Satanic Panic. I think the truth is that right-wing and left-wing people generally want to tell other people what to do. They do. They want to tell you what to do. It just depends on who wants to say what.
That's a grotesque oversimplification because people, by the way, it's not like the left versus the church. There are people that are Democrat that are part of the church. It's not a left versus right issue. The reality is that while people of the church may tell you right from wrong, because in the Bible, Jesus is the highest power, and in the Bible, he gives some prescriptions for leading a sinless life. You are always going to sin, but to be as close to that as possible. You're never going to achieve it, but it is the goal towards that destination that helps us grow. So Jesus has some prescriptions for life that are going to be beneficial for us. Basically, the Bible is a strategy guide to live a better life. And by the way, I don't know if Asmongold knows this, but the Bible is one of the most historically vetted documents in history. So what I mean by that is you have people that have looked at the Bible and what it says about certain times, places, kings, events, and they have corroborated that with other texts and other eyewitness accounts that have been written down, and they've basically gone in and pieced it together. The Bible is a historical document. So my point here is that the whole thing, religion is just a bunch of hokum, there's no evidence to it, it's just a bunch of crazy people that believe things that are as crazy as people on the left. No. Not only is it not true that it's not just a bunch of hokum, it's just a bunch of crazy things like men can be women and women can be men. No. The Bible is one of the most historically vetted documents that we've ever seen. And on top of that, the fruits of what Christianity has produced, it really speaks for itself, doesn't it? By the way, this is a conversation that is, it's too much for this one video. The Crusades were justified. And anyone who still disagrees with that doesn't know anything about history. Anyway, my point is, what Christianity produces, its fruits, can be seen in things like the Salvation Army and helping the poorest of the poor. Now, the Salvation Army is basically people donate to the Salvation Army, they clean these items up, and then they sell them for ridiculously cheap around the country to people that need it. Now, I'm not saying the Salvation Army is perfect. That's not the point of this. But I am saying that you really don't have an equivalent with any other group, with any other religion, where you help the poorest of the poor, the absolute poorest. No matter what city you go in, you can find a Salvation Army or a Goodwill that has items, clothing, furniture. I mean, yes, you can go there. You can find, I talked about this. You can go and find a DVD player at Goodwill or the Salvation Army for dirt cheap. We're talking probably $5 to $10. It'll be in working order. And you can get those, and you can go and in their DVD bin, usually $2 for a DVD, unless the color matches and it's 50% off. You could go today, instead of spending $160 on Disney Plus for a year, you could go to Goodwill and you could go clean out their DVD thing for probably $50. Probably $50. Get yourself a whole bunch of good DVDs. You could start a physical catalog and have a DVD player that's in pretty good condition for a fraction of the cost of Disney Plus for a single year. My point is that the Salvation Army and Goodwill offer something for poor people, people without money, that is not available in any other avenue. I'm not saying that there aren't other thrift shops, but the fact that there are as many Goodwills, there is as many Salvation Armies as there are, to reach as wide a group of people as they do, I think that is tremendously good. That is tremendously good. And so, yeah, I understand that Asmongold has an issue with religious theocracy. I agree. I don't want the church to run the state. But I do want Christian values and Christian ethics to run this country. Meaning that if somebody has a decision to make, I want them to think about, how does this affect the poor? How does this affect people that need the most? I want them to think about, all right, if we allow illegal immigration in there, is this going to hurt innocent American citizens? Yes? Okay, well then we're not going to do that. Christian ethics are about leading people to a better life, not only for themselves, but their community, their church, their state, their country. And that's why some of the most brilliant minds and some of the most incredible people in the world were all people that believed in Jesus, believed in Christ, believed in the divinity of God and the truth of the Bible. It's only today, as we have strayed and erred, that we're so arrogant and so pompous that we think that we can go a better way. We've seen that that's not true. Anyway, guys, I like Asmongold. I do. We disagree on a whole host of things, but I do like the guy because regardless of if we agree or not, I do think that Asmongold is a straight shooter. I do. And I do appreciate that. And that is a very important trait. Because far too often you get people that lie. And I've noticed that over the past couple weeks, especially, that there are a lot of liars on the internet. And to find somebody who's willing to be honest and willing to be truthful, I just got to say, I appreciate it. Appreciate you, Asmon. We don't agree on this, but I do like your takes. I do. They're at least entertaining. They're interesting, and I do think that you're being genuine. So, on that note, I will bid you guys a good day, and I'll see you next time.